a huge part of why my practice has built up over the years is that when a dentist calls me, particularly when there's some issue related to treatment of patients or dealing with a patient, dentists realize and understand that I've been there, done that, not just through other clients, but through my own experiences. I mean, in through the experience of dental school and 2 years of practice, no, I didn't practice 20 years, but I had enough practice experience that when one of my clients calls me with an issue with a patient, particularly when there's like I said, a dental issue going on, they can talk to me and I know the vocabulary. I know the treatment. I understand exactly what they're talking about.
Do you come from a non-legal professional background? Wonder how you can build a practice that draws from that knowledge that you have? Our guest this week is Boyd Shepard, founder of Legal Dental. Boyd started his career as a dentist and eventually transitioned to practicing law, focusing his specialty on helping dental professionals with their particular legal issues. Sitting in the Venn diagram overlap of attorneys and dental practice, he's found a successful niche practice and has launched a repository of information and related paid courses designed exclusively for the dental profession. Boyd tells us how he structured his online courses as part of the LegalDental.com law library and how that's making it easier to better engage with his specific clientele. This is not just a great bonus income stream for him, but one that cements Boyd as an expert in his particular niche. Ultimately, this is a great case study on how you can come from a wildly different professional background, deeply specialize, and thrive as an attorney. Let's get to it. I'm John Strohmeyer, and this is the 5-Star Counsel Podcast. The market for legal services is shifting, and lawyers who don't adapt will be left behind. This podcast gives you a competitive edge in today's market by sharing the client service lessons you probably didn't learn in law school or in law practice. Let's start the show. Hey 5-Star listeners, before we start, I want to tell you about our amazing sponsor, Smith AI. Smith AI is a virtual receptionist service for small businesses with a specialty in working with solo and small law firms. I signed up with them within weeks of starting my firm because they are affordable for even the smallest solo practice. Their friendly receptionists respond to potential clients in Spanish or English, screen and schedule new leads, and can even take payments. And now they're answering calls 24 hours a day. So even when you're asleep, they're still working. Even beyond the phone, they've got live agents and chatbots ready to capture leads on your website, by text, and by Facebook Messenger. Smith's friendly gatekeepers can staff your front line so you can work uninterrupted. You can finally have the peace of mind that while you're working, you're not missing out on future work. Plans start at just $70 a month for calls and $100 a month for chats. Smith AI is offering a free trial, and our podcast listeners get an extra $100 discount code with promo code 5-star. That's FIVESTAR. Sign up and learn more at www.smith.ai. Don't let another day go by. Try Smith AI. Hey, Boyd, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Good morning. So, Boyd, I found you through listening to a different podcast. I'd listened to a lot of them, and one of them happens to be for dentists. And I was surprised to see that they had you on because you're not only a dentist, but you're also a lawyer. And you were doing some interesting things, building out courses for your potential clients. I was like, you know what, this is good stuff. I really wanted to see, how you're making it easy for your future clients as well as current clients to get more things done with you.
Well, thanks, John. Yes, as an offshoot or an addition to my website, which is legaldental.com, that's where I provide legal services for dentists, particularly Texas dentists. I have, for the past year and a half, been building a separate place on the web called the LegalDental.com Law Library. And what that is an attempt to capture the past 27 years that I've had in law practice, of building a practice that focuses on providing legal services exclusively to Texas dentists. Dentists have all types of legal needs and issues, ranging from their business to regulatory matters, dealing with patients, dealing with employees, dealing with business matters such as commercial leases. And so for 27 years of doing that work, working with my clients, I've built what I call a library of information that now I'm want to make available in the form of courses in the legal dental law library that is set up, like I said, as courses that dentists can access and work through information that will help them better understand how to address a particular legal problem. And from that, they can decide, hey, I'm good to go, or perhaps now I need to contact Boyd as well on top of this. But it gives us a better place to start from with my representation as well as their understanding of where they are in the midst of whatever legal issue that they're dealing with.
Yeah, and so, I mean, that's really interesting, and I want to get to that. But first, I think it's worth kind of digging in. Most of our listeners are practicing attorneys, kind of similarly situated to you and me, where we've got small to medium-sized firms, and what we're doing is trying to build on our experience. We were talking before, your clients almost exclusively are dentists or dentist adjacent, so you're not taking the one-off adoption or criminal defense claim, unless it happens with somebody who had a drill in their hand. But tell me a little bit about your dental history, because you went to dental school before you went to law school.
Correct. Coming out of high school, and when I was applying for college, I went to Texas A&M University. You have to choose a college or an area that you're interested in, and I was gravitating towards dentistry right out of high school based on my experiences that I had growing up, and my dentist and my orthodontist. They were great guys, good examples, good business people, as well as it just seemed like what they did was an awesome profession or vocation. And I pursued that through college, was accepted into dental school, went to the UT School of Dentistry here in Houston. And then upon graduation, I was a dentist for 2.5 years. But along that line of working professionally as a licensed dentist in Texas, I had experiences in business with my employers, with different situations related to starting my own practice, and then learning from my classmates who were out doing the same thing I was doing, trying to get their career started after dental school. And I was influenced or guided to go into law based on all of those experiences, and decided to apply to law school. And all during law school, it became obvious that once I graduated from law school, there was an opportunity to build a niche practice that was specific for providing legal services to dentists. And that's what I've done over the last 27 years. My first client was one of my classmates from dental school, and it just built from there.
And I mean, here you are, having built, just focused exclusively on dentists, and I'm assuming it's just all the related specialists as well.
Yes.
You're not just GP dentists.
Correct. So when I say dentist, it includes every dental specialty type I've represented over the years. And a moment ago, you referenced doing criminal law. It's funny. There's two things about that. I actually, in the beginning of my law practice, did a lot of criminal law because I needed to have income while I was building the practice that I was working toward. I didn't have 100 dentist clients signed up right off the bat. It took time to build that, but I did do a lot of criminal law and other types of law that gave me experience in different areas. And dentists, they're business owners, they're people, they get themselves into legal matters that are all across the board. So having that experience in other areas of the law, and oddly enough, particularly criminal law, gave me the experience that I needed to represent them mostly on regulatory matters at the State Board of Dental Examiners for their licenses. It's very much very similar to representing a criminal client versus a prosecutor in the courtroom. It's very similar to a regulatory matter, and negotiating an outcome and working towards that. So all of the non-dental related type of legal experience all gave me all the tools that I needed to do a good job for the dentist that I represent.
Right, and I think this is something, 2 points to kind of draw out that I see coming up again and again and really resonate with me. One, you didn't start out all in on dentists, even though one of your first clients was. It just, when you're building these niches, you've got to start with one. You're not going to start with 100, and it just takes time. We've all, got to give ourselves the space to understand that if we're going to be migrating or moving into a deeper niche, it just will take time to get there.
Sure.
And there's nothing wrong with that. But the other thing is also bringing, multiple ways of thinking about it. It's not, you learn different things and you're going to bring it to this to make it your own. We're not islands. You're looking at, well, what did you learn in the criminal defense world? I'm sure there are still things that you learned in dental school that have nothing to do with the practice of law directly, but still inform you about it, just a way of thinking about it. And one of the example I'm going to is I enjoy gardening. I've learned about, how plants work and the roots develop. And when I was having an issue with one of my teeth that had a root canal, my dentist was explaining, well, the nerves and the blood vessels running through the teeth, it's not just one nerve and blood vessel. There are lots of little fine, and I'm not even going to get the words right, but, offshoots that even during a root canal, they're not going to go down every trail on that. And I was like, oh, well, this is kind of like the root hairs where you just can't get everything. And just being able to kind of put the pieces together in a way that helps explain it.
Sure. Well, and that's a huge part of why my practice has built up over the years, is that when a dentist calls me, particularly when there's some issue related to treatment of patients or dealing with a patient, dentists realize and understand that I've been there, done that, not just through other clients, but through my own experiences. Through the experience of dental school and 2 years of practice, no, I didn't practice 20 years, but I had enough practice experience that when one of my clients calls me with an issue with a patient, particularly when there's like I said, a dental issue going on, they can talk to me and I know the vocabulary. I know the treatment. I understand exactly what they're talking about. They don't have to educate me. They can just speak freely and I'm right there with them. It would be the equivalent of someone trying to speak all of the vocabulary that you and I learned in law school. And the only way they're going to be able to do that most likely is if they have some training working in a law office or through law school. And that's invaluable when dealing with my dentist clients, is they feel like I am one of them, because technically I am one of them. So that's worked out really well.
Right. So, Boyd, we're here to talk more about what you're doing with your law library. So why don't we start with what is your vision for this? What does it look like when, as you think of it now, you are, call it 95% done?
Okay. Well, sure. If you were to go to the legaldental.com law library, what you would find is that there's 18 to 20 courses that are queued up, and you can see the interface for it. What I envision is that every single course with 18 different subject matters is going to touch on an area of the law that I have found over the last 27 years that dentists over and over find themselves landing in, okay? And so approximately 8 or 9 of those courses are specific for dealing with state board, regulatory, licensure, what happens when a patient complains and now they are suffering the inconvenience of an investigation. And there's so much material there that I've broken that down into preliminary investigation, the front end when the complaint first comes in, and I'm just giving an example, and then the next step of the process, uh, all the way from the preliminary investigation to the official investigation to the informal settlement conference to the State Office of Administrative Hearings. You see how complicated it can be. So dividing that up, because a dentist who calls me is going to say, well, this is where I am in the process. Well, what I'm envisioning and what I'm trying to do is give them a resource that they can go to, and they don't have to necessarily schedule a consultation with me, but they can educate themselves and they can decide on their own comfort level, do I want to move forward knowing what Boyd has taught me through this course, or do I now need to get legal counsel whether they hire me or not? They are being encouraged to really think hard and fast about, all right, this is what you need to do, this is where you are, but perhaps you need professional advice as well. And so extrapolating that vision across the other things that are addressed in the law library, there's one for commercial leases, there's one for buying a dental practice, there's one for selling a dental practice, there's one for retirement from dental practice, there's one for hiring and firing of associates, when a owner wants to hire, as well as for the associate who wants to be hired. So you see where I've broken it all down. They can access that information, learn on their own, and it's not just video. It's also the forms, the contracts, the correspondence examples. There's templates. They can download and actually use the legal documents in template form that would be used on a per subject basis. And it's just a one-stop shop for all of that.
Yeah, and so, just thinking about these 18 to 20 courses, this is a lot of information. Obviously, you had to pick one first, and even picking, when you started designing that first course, where did you even start? What was the mindset? Is this a 15-hour course or is it a 1-hour course?
Sure. Well, I'm so glad you asked that, because that takes me back 3 to 4 years ago. I went to the State Board of Dental Examiners here in Texas requesting approval as a recognized provider of CE for purposes of their risk management course that they, on a routine basis, I would say 90% of the disciplinary actions that the Texas State Board of Dental Examiners issues will include 3 to 6 hours in risk management. And they approved me, and you can go to the State Board website, look at the list of the providers, and I'm listed there as one of their providers officially. So what that does is that when a doctor receives a disciplinary action as a result of an investigation in a case, they'll be given as part of their order, they must take, for example, 6 hours in risk management and ethics. Well, that brings them to the legaldental.com law library through my website. They select that course. And so that's the first course I built, because I knew that was an immediate need. And I was already doing that course before the library, but it was through using Prezi. If you're familiar with Prezi, it's like PowerPoint. Sometimes it was live, just like this. Sometimes, I tried to set it up to where I could make it as online and as non-interactive as possible to give the doctors a choice, but stay within the guidelines of what the board expected. Well, this format on the Teachable Platform to create a course where I could put it all in one place, that was excellent, because now and that's the course that is the most attended right now, because it was the first one out. It's ready to go, and there's an immediate need for it. So that's the answer to your question of how I started with the risk management courses, because I was already doing it and there was an immediate need.
So it sounds like you designed your first course to address the biggest need in the market.
Yes.
And when you put together the outline for the content,
Sure.
I mean, overview wise, is this 1 hour, 3 hours, 6 hours?
Sure. So, understanding that some dentists were going to be given 3 hours by the board, some dentists were going to be given six. I actually started with the 6 hour course, and then to build the 3 hour course, I scaled it back using the same content, but within that teachable platform, it allows you to basically copy a course, and then I scaled it back to be roughly 3 hours worth of content. And what I do on the backside, there needs to be some type of evaluation. And so that's where at the end, and they have to go through the entire course to find the last component that tells them, okay, now to get your certificate, you have to go here and answer questions that are basically fact patterns. What you and I would understand from law school as fact patterns, I give them fact patterns that they have to now write me an essay and email it to me. So there's content that has to do with record keeping, and there's content that has to do with risk management, and there's content that has to do with ethics. So those main areas are basically the outline of the course. And there's particular rules that have to do with record keeping that are I guess, the centerpiece rules of all of the rules that dentists have to deal with. And I focus on those rules. I offer a few more of the state law rules that I think are important for them to know. And that's how I basically decided on the content, because I know after 27 years the trouble they get themselves into, and I know what the board wants them to know and understand. And I also know more than likely what they got in trouble for. So building all of that and then giving them the fact pattern on the end, and then they email me their answers, that's the process for them to get their certificate of completion. And for the past almost a year now in the teachable course format, that's been working fantastic.
Interesting. So dentists continuing education, it's not just sit through a course for an hour and you get your certificate. You've got to write answers, or is that just a feature of yours?
That's just the feature of mine, is that I can give them a quiz, but they don't complain. I think that the way that I present and the way that I speak in the videos that are within the teachable course, many of them have either heard of me, know me, or have heard me before in another setting, so they know who they're dealing with. They've been referred to it. They have some sense. And then when they get to know me through the course, I think that, for lack of a better word, they don't mind writing the essays because they're inspired. And I don't mean this critical. They're inspired to show me, hey, this is my understanding. There's a lot of pride that they're a little upset that they're having to do it at all because it's a disciplinary action. And now they want to more than show me, hey, I got this. Here's my answer. Check it out. It's that kind of vibe whenever I receive the responses.
Interesting. And how long are these answers? I mean, is it a couple paragraphs, a couple pages, a couple sentences?
The good news is, I would say the majority, and I mean 80 to 90%, let's say if we were looking at 10 essays, 8 of them will be a nice, good, robust paragraph, sometimes more answers, that I feel really good about. About 20% are going to be short answer. They didn't get it wrong, but I laugh because dentists notoriously love to abbreviate, because that's what they do all day long when they're writing their dental records. And so about 20% stay in abbreviation mode and give me the shortest answer possible, but they're not wrong. And I give them credit. They followed instructions, but the good news is most of them give me a nice, robust answer that, I would give them at least a B- in law school.
Okay, good. Thinking back on this course creation, is there anything you can think of that you know now that you wish you would have known when you got started, building this course that would have helped accelerate the process?
Well, I guess just practically, and that's a great question. Practically, what happens is that I'll have 4 courses open on my computer screen at a time because there's a lot of what I call skeleton content that is the exact same content from course to course. It's the call to action. It's the if you have questions, contact me at, it's the welcome, so when you're building a course, there's going to be a lot of skeleton content that is going to be the same. What's going to vary is going to be the interesting story to get everybody hooked. It's going to be the actual content of these are these steps to do fill in the blank. So what I've tried to do here at the end as I'm finishing up is go through and make sure all the skeleton content is consistent. And what that leaves me is a screen of 4 different courses open at one time, where now I'm just focusing on one and saying, okay, I need to just really pull out of my brain what is it that I need them to learn in the section of the course that is the actual steps to deal with an investigation, to deal with an informal settlement conference, to deal with negotiating a commercial lease, to deal with reviewing an associate contract and negotiating terms, the best terms possible. In hindsight, I would have built all of my skeleton content across the board and then come back through and focused on content separately.
Got it. Build out that basic framework.
Yeah, framework. That's exactly right.
Excellent. It just sounds like that's the pitfall of you're getting tripped up on the minor details that, just you need to make sure and introduce who Boyd is and why you should listen to him. You don't need to reinvent that for the investigations course and the associate firing course.
Right. It'll be the same content there, but it's a lot of cut and paste and some editing here and there. One thing I do want to mention is that the Teachable Platform, what really sparked me getting the first 2 or 3 completed was that they, I think twice a year, they offer what's called a 30-day challenge. And being new to it at the last year, I took that 30-day challenge and they guided you through the building of a course over a 30-day, 4-week process where they said, okay, this week we're doing this. This week we're doing this. And they walked me through it. And once I had done one, now I understood how to do it across the board. And they not only give you the Teachable Platform, let's build a course, but they give you also the marketing component of it. Now that you have it built, this is how we recommend marketing this. So that's been really good as well.
Yeah, and as we start to close things down, one of the things you'd mentioned before we got started links back to that marketing, that you're doing pretty well on this with almost zero marketing.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you see, you've got the content that's coming out, but where do you see this going?
Well, very, very similar to how I built my law practice. There's a couple of things I need to do. Obviously, there's going to be my email database. I'm going to use some text messaging, I think, to existing clients. But in the beginning of my law practice, one of the ways I got the word out about me, Boyd Shepard, just the person, the lawyer, was going and speaking to different groups and making myself available. So doing podcasts like this one helps me, put myself out there. But also, dentists have study clubs, they have dental societies, they have groups where they get together. And now that we're all getting back together again in person, that's what I plan to do, is just to make myself available to different groups to speak and let them know, hey, this resource is available, and build the momentum of that. And that'll probably be at least a year to 2 years worth of work to get positioned to be able to, go to the public and say, hey, this resource is available online, and let them hear me talk about it.
Boyd, one last question.
Sure.
For anybody who's thinking about starting their own course, what's
Sure.
one practical thing they can do right now to get started?
To get started, and there may be other platforms. The one that is within the zone of price point, ease of use, or user-friendly, however you think of it, as well as bang for buck on the product and the design of it on the backside. I use the Teachable Platform. It's teachable.com, and just check it out. Once I understood the platform and how to navigate it, I thought this is perfect for what I want to do. And then you can create a school. I think that there's a trial period, and use every resource that they have available to teach you how to build a course. If anyone wanted to contact me and ask more questions, I'd be happy. You can give them my email. I don't know.
Yeah,
if I
yeah.
say
Go
it
ahead
now.
and we'll include definitely links to Legal Dental and TexasDentalJurisprudence.com.
Sure.
But if somebody's looking to reach out, how can they do that, Boyd?
Sure. Well, my email is Boyd, Boyd, at legaldental.com. They can call my cell or text me, 832-788-4100, and say, hey, I'd like to know more about Teachable. And I would be happy to reply and talk to anyone on the phone and get them pointed in the right direction. I'd be very happy to do that.
Excellent. Boyd, thanks so much for joining us today. This is a lot of fun.
Thank you, John. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.
Thanks so much for listening. You can find more info on us and get your free white paper on client service at 5starcounsel.com. You can get in touch with me at john@5starcounsel.com. If you enjoyed the podcast, please subscribe wherever fine podcasts are found and leave us a review wherever you can.